Okay.
No, because I pressed the button, David, and then I apparently didn't press enough.
Now it says live.
And Janet's joining us, so that's
Oh, good.
perfect
All
timing.
right.
Now we're live on YouTube.
All righty. Hi, Janet. I'm sorry it's snowing and hailing down there. It must be terrible.
Oh, it's let me see. Yesterday was the only day it hasn't been in the mid 80s since we arrived. Yesterday it was
Wonderful.
like 76. So not looking forward to coming back to that.
Oh no, when are you coming back?
Starting up on Sunday.
Oh, okay, so that's a little while. Which town are you in?
Stewart.
Okay.
It's on the East Coast, north of Jupiter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, sounds good. All right, shall we start the meeting?
Yep.
It is 11:04. It is Friday, the 10th of March. This is the Library Board of Trustees, and we have President Landry, Director Ryan Donovan, Trustee Eckberg, Trustee Reagan, Trustee Maney. All right.
Davis.
Trustee Davis.
And Trustee Davis, sorry, Jane, you're off my screen. I'm going to put you on right now. There you are. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Review and approve the minutes of January 28th and February 17th. January 28th was a joint meeting with the advisory committee. It was very brief. We just simply sat there and discussed the budget. Do I have any emendations or corrections for that?
Just a quick
Margaret,
question. I'm sorry.
oh,
Quick
I was
question. The two people whose appointment we approved, only one of them took the job. Is that right, Ryan? And which one was that?
No, so both accepted the job, both started work after the first shift for one of the employees. They then resigned. So
Which one was that?
that is Rachel. So
Rachel Lipkin is not with us. Okay.
yeah, correct. So she is no longer, that was going to be during the update for the hiring,
Yeah.
David,
Okay.
but so the minutes are accurate to that time. She did tell me, I think she felt bad because her family situation changed, and then she was like, you don't have to pay me for for that one shift I worked. And I'm like, legally we do. So she was paid, and she was technically an employee for like a week.
Right. Kim, what were you going to ask?
I was going to say this lists me as being present, but I was not present at that meeting.
Good point.
And also I was able to watch the Zoom portion with the select board and advisory on the budget, but I wasn't able to, it wasn't recorded the part where you talked about the appointments. So I'll probably abstain from voting on
All
this
right.
just because I
Okay.
wasn't there for it. I couldn't even view half of it.
Yeah, there's still some discussion whether you have a quorum if somebody's watching on Zoom, but they're not participating. That is still the gray area of Zoom compliance that still nobody's quite figured out, but thank you for that.
So because of the nature of the
Yeah.
owl equipment, right? Because the meetings were both happening, we went to a table in the back where we just did the appointments really quick, and then kind of but because there was a little bit of a discussion, we were actually kind of shushed by the town administrator a little bit. So the people who were there will remember that, because there was feedback that was getting picked up. But I mean, I watched that back as well, Kim, and you know, that the audio on the owl is not great. So you're a trooper for going
Some
through
parts were easier to hear than others, but I
Yeah.
caught the gist of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. All right, so do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended with Kim struck as attending?
So move.
Okay, David moves, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jane seconds. All right, then Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Eckberg,
Aye.
Trustee Reagan is gonna abstain. Yep. Okay, Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Maney.
Abstain. I wasn't there either.
Okay, so we have two abstentions. Trustee Asdani is not here, and I think that passes.
Do you have quorum?
It's not a quorum of votes, but we have a quorum for the meeting.
Oh, I see.
So,
Okay.
so just to clarify though, if I may, I know you guys are
Mhm.
already in process for vote. You don't
Yeah.
have to be in the meeting to vote for the minutes. And like
Correct.
it was just brought up, I don't know if 3 of you voting for the minutes means it passes. I have to double check that. So
Oh,
throwing
then
that
I'll
out
vote-
there.
I'll vote for them.
Well,
Not
Janet, if
trying to
you
get
weren't-
you to change your vote, Janet, but I
Oh.
might
No,
have
I
to do
think
this
legally
next
you
time.
can vote for minutes even if you weren't at the meeting.
Yeah,
Oh,
you don't have.
but
to do
Janet, you
that.
said you weren't at that meeting. This has you
No.
listed as attending also.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even review the minutes because I wasn't there.
Alright.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. That needs to go into the
All right,
amendment as well.
so,
So good, you gotta redo the vote anyway, because we gotta redo the amendment.
Well, all right, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended to strike Janet and Kim as present?
So moved.
Okay, David and Jane, you
I'll
want a
second.
second again? Okay. All right, and I'll call the vote again. Landry, aye. Trustee Ekberg,
Aye.
Trustee Reagan,
Abstain.
all right. Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Maney.
Aye.
All right, okay, so there, that's good. Now, how about the minutes for March 10th? No, wait a minute, wrong one. Hold on,
February
the other set
17th.
of minutes was,
February 17th.
yes, February 7th, okay.
Taste.
I got too many pieces of paper. Do I have any emendations for those?
No.
Nothing?
A quick question, under the director's report, are you on the February 17th meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Under director's report, Red Cross donation bin, the second line, I should have these folks squared away by now, but is it Katie Berry or is it Amy Berry?
There's actually 2. So
It's Amy?
Amy Berry is the assistant town clerk.
Right.
And then Katie Berry is the administrative assistant for the select board. I think
Yeah,
I
one
got
is
their
Barry
titles
and one
right.
is Barry.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a Berry and a Bari, but like there's kind of pronounced the same.
I think it's Katie Barry and Amy Barry. I think we should fix that.
Barry.
Yeah, I can confirm those details. I
Yep.
apologize. I might have
Good
gotten the berries
question.
crossed.
I know, it's odd that they would have such similar names, but anyway, I think
So
it's
this is
Amy Barry.
Barry. This one, Katie?
Katie is Barry.
Yeah, but with
Katie
an
is
A.
A and Amy is E.
Okay, so this woman who is, the request came from resident Jane Osborne who contacted Katie Barry, right?
Barry, right.
It's Barry for
Right.
Katie,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
then
Amy is E. And the way I remember that is Paul
Correct.
Berry with an E
Right.
used to be the town clerk.
Right.
And I thought they were related, but they're not. But they both have worked at the town clerk, so.
but that's a good reminder because their last names are so similar.
Yes.
David, but it was the select board admin assistant who received the initial request. So it was Katie Berry.
No, Barry.
That's what
Barry.
I heard.
Okay.
And
We
we're
wonder
off.
why these
We'll
meetings take
fix
long.
it. How's that? All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right. Do I have a motion to accept as amended for Katie Barry?
so move.
All right. Jane moves. And then do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Kim, it's your turn. All right.
Okay.
We got to keep this floating around. All right. All right. So Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Ekberg,
Aye.
Trustee Reagan,
Aye.
Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Maney.
Aye.
All right, then those both sets of minutes have been approved as amended. All right, director's report. Ryan, what have you got for us?
It's pretty self-explanatory this month, just a couple sort of updates. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that you might notice if you come to the library and you're looking is that one of the teak benches in the front has been removed. That is something DPW is currently exploring whether or not it can be fixed. A couple weeks ago, I noticed that the support beam in the middle of the bench had actually
Yeah.
been completely knocked out. So I did contact them. This happened all between meetings. I was concerned that if somebody sat there once the snow kind of melted and it was nicer outside, that it was possible that the whole bench might collapse in the middle. I mean, the teak is pretty strong, but it must have been something to do with the winter. It looks like something with incredible force must have knocked that, or it must have frozen and the moisture separated the middle support beam.
Those
So
benches are not very old. They're maybe, what, 10?
they've been here since I've been there. So I can tell you they're at least 9 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe we would not decide on teak next time.
If we end up going for a replacement and I have to come back to you guys, that is a very real discussion we can have. I mean, one of the benches and the table there, we probably would keep. So there would be some teak material, but we already have the solar powered bench, which is not made of that material.
Yeah.
So there would be it would be in good company. We've already started to kind of, update that. The teak
Yeah.
benches were in other places, or some of that material was there. And then there was some of it was in another part of the property, and it was repurposed as part of an Eagle Scout project for those of us that may not have been on the board when that happened.
Yeah.
The Choate Fund, I think, would be good if we identify something that we want to put there. I mean, another possibility is, I think we had a pretty concrete idea of where we wanted to place the picnic bench. We could buy another picnic bench and put a picnic bench out there. So that might be another option.
Okay, so maybe a future agenda item. What do you think, everybody?
Yeah. Well,
Sounds
we
good.
you don't have the picnic bench yet, right?
We have it, but it's us at DPW now with
Oh.
the broken teak one as well. So I would just say this is kind of moot. If they repair it, we would probably just put the bench back out there. But this is something I'm going to keep more of an eye on. I honestly, it never even occurred to me that they could get damaged in the way that it was damaged. So that was good. It's become part of my rounds to check the outdoor benches. So.
All right, other things we need to know, Ryan.
I would say kind of the big one, because we talked about this for a while, months ago, was that I finally, I went with Amy Yazdani to Shrewsbury several weeks ago. We did actually review the Biblioteca software. So, there were a lot of, I would say, positive outcomes of using it. And the Shrewsbury staff was nice to kind of give us a quick tutorial on it. It does give the option to not print receipts, which I can tell you right now has been very popular with the members of the public. The work with the self-check is not over, just to let you know. There's a couple we used to have our logo on the machine that went away once they upgraded the software. So we're going to explore if it can be put back. There's also the physical scanner that's in the upper part of it. There's a physical problem with it. So we're in the process of working with the technician to get it replaced. That apparently is taking a long time because we put in the ticket like weeks ago, and it's still, I have to kind of, every week and a half ask for an update. And I think I've asked for like 3 updates at this point. So it's been a while. I'll keep on it though. So I just wanted to let you know that's something to look at. We also kind of want to refine the receipts when they do print, only because they're very short. They're kind of getting stuck in the receipt printer. So again, the old receipts used to have the logo on it. If we add that, it'll use a slightly longer amount of paper. We think that might resolve the issue, but we're also highly interested in customizing the receipts so we can advertise events. We can, put, things like the library seat exchange service reopening, kind of announcements like that, and then use the receipt printer as a little marketing tool in addition to everything else we do. But that was just, I just wanted to update you on that because I think sometimes, we talk about stuff and then I I don't always report back on like the outcome, but I would say generally the software upgrade, you know, there were a couple, I think like 2 weeks where it was a little more difficult. They did have to send us these new admin cards, which we have to scan to shut down the machine. So there was a lot of confusion in the staff, even after we got the software package a little bit tighter on how to shut it down, because literally they needed to send us something to do that. So we have those cards now. You know, I'm trying to do like little steps at a time, trying to like focus on one fix, because there was
So-
there was a lot to do.
Are we still glad we're using Biblioteca, or I don't like the idea that you have to chase down the technician.
To be honest, Marguerite, I've looked at other vendors and we'd
Yeah.
be doing that with any of the vendors.
All
So
right.
it doesn't, at least they're responding to the tickets and they are making improvements. What I would really like is that physical piece so that the scanner works in the upper part of the machine. That's my big focus.
Brian, can I ask you a question? I think it makes sense to use it as a marketing tool on the receipts. I think that's a good idea. And I'm sorry if you covered this already, but will there ever be the option to not print a receipt if the patron doesn't want that extra piece of paper, or is that not possible?
Yes, so now when they check out, Kim, it actually, there's a prompt when they get to the next screen and it will say print receipt or no receipt, and you
Okay.
can hit the no receipt. So that was a large reason why we thought upgrade is, so the old software package I think was called Liberate with the number 8, and this is called QCI. So the QCI software did have a lot more customization.
Okay.
One thing that I think is confusing for patrons is there's a graphic that now displays when they first start checking out. And the graphic is for libraries that have RFID tags. And it's like to place it on a platform so that the RFID tags scan, and it isn't really designed for barcode. So we did modify the language, but kind of the rub is people have to read. Like they have to read the note, and what we're finding is people are looking at the graphic. So I've given them that feedback, and they're going to see, I don't think they have another animated graphic. So I don't know if we're getting that resolved, but that, you know, it's like little things like that, Kim, that now I'm working on, but at least like they have the option to not print receipts. And a lot of patrons have actively thanked myself and the staff because they didn't like that it automatically printed receipts before.
Great. Thanks for the details.
Other questions?
Good question. Back up to the second bullet from the top, the security cameras. Ryan, what is the cost, and does that go through the library's capital budget or the general town capital budget?
Yeah, so we don't have a separate capital budget for the library. We would make a request of the capital committee. This was an item that had been grandfathered. It's actually, other than planning and design and construction costs, it was the only thing that was on the capital plan before we got a capital improvement committee in town. That was kind of like a, you know, grandfathered, red lettered, whatever you want to call it. But that was like a request that was on that, because we made the request when the security incident happened in Winchester, and we were doing the active shooter and active stabber training. So I want to say it was like in 2017, it was somewhere around there. So it's been floating around for a while. And then the cost is $15,000. I believe that's what's in the town warrant. I do have an early copy of the town warrant that I can send to you guys, which I will probably do later this afternoon. I verified that the budget number for the library is correct, and it is. So you will see, you're going to see a separate items for capital, which I don't know if it's going to be on the consent agenda at town meeting or not. I believe it might be a consent item, but that will be, you'll see like kind of an itemized area, and then the library security cameras are there, and there's an explanation in the warrant article itself
It
that
depends if
explains why we
somebody
made the
holds it,
request.
right? It depends on if somebody holds the line.
And if somebody holds it, I will probably speak to the item, and John Parent will as well. and I don't know if a capital committee member, you guys as library trustees are also welcome to,
Yes,
you know,
yes,
get up,
please,
get up
yeah.
on the hot mic and talk about why you think it's important.
So the 15,000 is just the library component of this, purchase and installation, is that correct?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
lot more in the capital, the
Yeah.
overall town capital, and it's a lot. I can tell you we are one of the lower items on it. We're not, and I mean that by cost. There's a lot more big ticket items on capital.
Right, but people may have questions. Okay, good question, David. Ryan, what else do we need to know?
I know I said, I feel like we kind of closed the gap on the solicitation policy, but I kind of had sent out a lot of feelers on that. I got a really good one-page one, from Seekonk. I know the director over there who was very nice to send it to me. I will send that to you guys, sort of the Southborough version of it. You know, one of the things that has come up, I would say that I guess I'm more concerned about, and I've talked a lot with Kim Ivers about this, is, you know, in the past, when we've kind of visited we allow signatures on the site. We had somebody who came in and they wanted signatures for a citizen's petition article. That's a little bit different than somebody who would come in for signatures for an elected office, right?
Mhm.
The patron didn't want to tell us what the citizen's petition article was for. That was a little concerning. So, you know,
But
it
shouldn't it just
ended up
have been on
being,
the, shouldn't it just have been on the sheet?
I wasn't shown the sheet either, Marguerite. She just simply asked if she could go around the library and do it. So I had to explain the process. You have to make an appointment. We have to set up a table. I said, I do have some time. I'll set up a table for you now. The patron only ended up staying for about 10 minutes before they left. Because again, I don't think that was what they expected. I think they wanted to go up to people individually, which is something that we say we don't do. So this led to a more extended conversation with the town clerk about, you know, can we allow election signatures and not citizen petition signatures, right? And
What
sort
did
of
he
Jim
say?
said, good question. That was the first thing I got. But if you allow signatures in your facility, you have to allow all signatures. And so as a result of the discussion, I think kind of my takeaway is that if we're concerned about any signatures, right, or anybody who's doing polling or trying to go up to patrons, that maybe we shouldn't allow this. So I think the solicitation policy is going to have language in there that might say signatures are not allowed. That's something I think you guys will have a much longer discussion about.
Well, what about somebody who stands outside the library and does it?
I think we can specify that. So that was also a question I asked in my directors meetings. And I think most of this, when people are saying no solicitation at the library, they're really extending it to the property as well, because the problem becomes, Marguerite, people would like park outside the door. And then that is really kind of aggressive and invasive for people who are simply trying to come into the library to use the library. You know, I will say Amy Yazdani came to the library twice and got signatures and was very respectful. My concern is that we might have people who were not. And to be honest, we've had that experience before.
All right.
So
My question is, we don't want to look like we're clamping down on free signature gathering rights.
I mean, a lot of libraries do not allow
Yeah,
this, is what
okay.
I can tell you,
Yeah.
at least as part of my investigation.
Okay.
And I can start giving you like a list. You know, even Seekonk, I think they had sort of a specific rule where they only allow people to like leave a binder on a table for a while. And then it was like, you couldn't stay at the table and explain what it was. People had to voluntarily go up to the table and like sign. And they said that even that was something that had like generated a lot of discussion because people were very upset. They're like, how do people know what this is? How are people going to go up and read
that should
it?
be clear. But my other question is, how many places in Southborough can a person doing a citizen's petition get signatures? Dunkin' Donuts and the transfer station.
I mean, I think the transfer station kind of has a precedent for being an area where people collect signatures.
But what
So
if
that,
you
I
do
mean,
not have a transportation sticker because you have a trash pickup service? Then you're effectively, unless you go to Dunkin' Donuts, you're cut out of the process.
that
There's
is
a lot of
what I
people in
think.
town that don't have dump stickers.
Yeah, I don't think we want, I'm not comfortable with the library being a place where you can get approached by people with separate agendas. And I don't like the idea of somebody lurking outside in the parking lot either. You know, these days, I'm sorry, but these days that creeps me out if somebody's there.
I agree.
I think there should be a very
100%.
safe environment, easy environment.
All right,
You know,
there it
Right,
is.
you don't want to be at the library and have people approaching you. You want to be there
Accosting
for-
you for
Yeah.
signatures.
But I also feel bad because like when you guys need to get signatures, you know, I wanted the
go to this
library to be a
transfer
place where you
station.
could do it, but I honestly, I think this situation has kind of highlighted that we might have liability for, and the other thing I'm concerned about really long-term is that if we undertake a building project and we have people who are not in support of a library building project, this could potentially allow them to have a space at the library to be collecting signatures against the library project.
Mm.
Does that
So,
make sense?
no.
It's like
Yeah, it does
against
make
their own
sense, yeah.
interests. Yeah.
But, you know,
So why don't-
I think it is a problem that there aren't a number of places available in town to hear about things, whatever. That's a wider issue. We don't have a great publication system in general for information. But from collecting signatures and handing out information at the transfer station a million times, there's lots of people who do not want to be stopped. There's some people who want to stay the day with you, but there's lots of people who don't. And maybe they're in a hurry, but maybe they just don't. And some of them are really adamant about it. So
Yeah, it's different modes, and they at least can escape when they're at the transfer station, where it's in the library, you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
What is the policy of signatures at the townhouse, Ryan? Do you know? Can you collect signatures?
I believe it's not allowed.
All right.
I don't
I
think there's
think
enough
the-
foot traffic there to get signatures anyways. So sorry, Ryan, can you just confirm this? So it sounds like if we allow any like table for candidates for town election to collect signatures, we can't discriminate against anyone who wants to collect signatures for anything, whether it's some sort of petition or, you know, otherwise. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
that-
I think it's too bad that we can't at least allow it for people running for positions in our town, because as Marguerite said, like not everyone goes to the transfer station, but that is the place with the most foot traffic for people to be able to collect enough signatures. And, you know, I think it does benefit our town to have more people running for these positions, so people have more options for candidates. But it is really difficult if you don't know a lot of people to find that place where you can get these signatures quickly. So sorry, I guess I don't have any suggestions. I just wish it was possible for us to at least allow a candidate to have a table that's, you know, passive, that people can walk up to them to get signatures to get them on the ballot, because I do feel like that benefits the entire town to have more people running for these things and having more options for people to vote for. But if it's also opening up the liability for other people doing petitions, and I mean, for someone to say that they want to come to the library and have people sign a petition and not even say what it's for, I mean, that seems crazy to me. So I guess we'll just have to balance the liability, and it would just be too bad, I think, if it ended up with town candidates not being able to solicit signatures.
I wonder what
Well,
the
here you
senior
can.
center
Ryan-
does. Does
Ryan,
seniors
They don't allow it.
They don't allow
They
it.
don't allow it either.
Hmm.
We don't allow
We're the
what?
only municipal building in town that has allowed it ever.
Ryan, what
So
is your
I-
sense?
Center has a lot of people from out of town, you know, people who
I-
used to live in Southborough and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I think I feel the same way that Kim does, to be honest, is that and maybe there is a way from a policy perspective to balance this. You know, Jim was saying it's a slippery slope if you allow any signatures, is that really opens you up to, you know, somebody who's like, why is this allowed? this way and not allowed that way. And I have to say, from the discussion with him, I saw where he was coming from. He deals with signature issues a lot more than I do.
yeah.
There is, it's like, there's nothing illegal. I think that has been the conception. But as the policymakers, you guys are the ones, sorry, who have the responsibility to decide this. So again, I don't have anything before you to make this decision. I think this is something you need to ruminate on in the next month a little bit. You know, this kind of goes really good with, I think, the discussion we're going to have in a bit on candidates night, is that I will say it used to be more of a, it didn't seem as to be honest, as nasty as it was when I first got here on political issues, on
Yeah, it's
people
gotten
attempting
nastier.
to,
Yeah.
it just does seem like people are to be like a lot more aggressive is what I would say. And that is generally the conversations I have had. It would help me, to be honest, David, in my position, to be able to say no. You know,
Yeah.
if I could say no, like if somebody said, I want to come in, I want to get signatures, I don't want to tell you what this is about. If I was to say, you know, our trustees have discussed this, it's not allowed here. There are other things that we don't allow. So, you know, I have great sympathy for people who do have trouble getting signatures, you know, especially for elected offices. If there's a way we can somehow allow one and not the other, that is something I think we can explore in the
Well,
next few months.
let's think about that and talk about it at our next meeting. Because I'm just thinking, if you don't have a transfer station sticker, where do you go to collect signatures?
Outside of town
think-
meeting. You can do it
Outside
outside
town meeting? Yeah, but say you want something that's going to be a warrant article, where do you go? Dunkin' Donuts and pass it around to your friends?
I'm not positive of this, Marguerite, but I think
Yeah.
they would allow an individual to go in and collect signatures, even if they weren't, like, they didn't have a transfer station sticker. The issue
So
becomes is
too,
that,
actually.
Is that
what?
I think that's true, actually.
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree, Janet. That's my understanding as well. I think the other, like the flip side of that issue is that if you are not a transfer station, like regular attendee, right? Like you don't go to the transfer station, you would not be able to sign for that person at that forum. So, but I think that's kind of where
Well,
people
it's
are.
not our problem to
Suggested to go to
solve. Yeah.
when people say, I don't know where to get signatures, I think the clerk's office suggests the transfer station as a area.
The secret political heart of Southborough.
Brian, last question. If we were to adopt a policy of simply no solicitations by anyone for any reason, would we be seen, in your judgment, would we be seen as a kind of a bad corporate citizen?
No, because I think we'd be consistent with the other municipal buildings, and I think we would be consistent with a lot of other public libraries in Massachusetts. I think, and I know, you know, it's unfortunate Amy couldn't be here at this point, but you know, Amy can kind of echo this. She's been taking those MBLC legal seminars. And one thing I think the lawyer who was in those sessions was really suggesting is you try to separate the library from the politics as much as possible, because you don't want to be perceived as being, you know, you need to be a neutral party. Like we need to kind of be Switzerland a little bit here on trying to, you know, we're welcoming to everybody, and whether that be liberal or conservative. And I think that needs to be part of our mission.
I agree with
Another
that.
solution to getting signatures is simply take your clipboard and go visit your neighbors and ring their doorbells.
Yep, people can do that. Maybe it's a problem that the library shouldn't be on the hook to solve. Which,
Yeah,
you know, again,
maybe.
I want
I
to be
agree.
I want to be a good partner. I want to, you know, try to give services to residents as much as possible. But this might be one of those things that's not our responsibility.
Well, the library's mission is primary. And if people who come here to use the library services get put in positions that are uncomfortable, we're not doing our job very well.
Good.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree. Okay, so we'll look forward to reading the policy next meeting. Sounds good. Anything else on this, fellow members? No? All right. So Ryan, anything else on the director's report?
Just the legislative day announcement. Amy, David and I are planning on going. The rest of you are welcome to join us if you're available. I know some of you are at work and some of you have prior commitments. So that is, that's okay. It's that we'll be representing Southborough. As my role as president of the Central Mass Library Advocates, I will be making just a short speech. So they also identify me as the Southborough Library Director, just because they like to say what your position is as well. So I did the virtual one Wednesday morning where I gave the speech twice. You know, I got to have a little back and forth with State Senator Ann Goby, who I know from the CMLA trivia events. She's very funny, very much a library supporter. So I just wanted to mention that. If you can't come this year, they're hoping to do it at the State House again in person every year. This is actually, in the 9 years I've been here, my first library legislative day. So I'm very excited to go. And then hopefully we can start making this, you know, kind of a yearly event. That's it for directors. Yep.
You're representing us like a star here. This is really good. Anyway.
Try my best.
Yeah, there you go. We appreciate it. Yes, sir. Okay, do I need to belabor the state ethics test or have we all finished it?
Done.
Done.
Yay.
Done.
Yeah, Janice says she downloaded Chrome to get it done. Okay, so we're good
And
on
just
that.
What they
so
tell
you
you to
guys
do.
know, after there's the ethics thing, which is the over the hour training, but then there's another little section at the bottom that's the conflict of interest acknowledgement. So that has messed staff up a little bit. That only takes, you have to read through it and it takes a couple minutes. So that is very quick. But if you haven't
Actually,
done
you
that
have to
part,
say you've read through it.
which I know you all did.
Just
I know
saying.
you all read it.
Several times, yes. I've committed it to memory. Okay, so good. That's one hurdle. Anything else in the director's report, Ryan?
No.
Good. Okay. Expense report. Where are we there?
Doing good. I don't, unless there's any questions you want me to specifically answer, I
Nope.
think we're doing okay. We're also, just because this isn't part of the regular line item budget, we are about, I want to say, a little beyond a third of the cooking grant expenditures. That has to be spent down by the end of September. So that is plugging right along. We've started to do some of the supply costs to support the programs. I think most of the programs have been booked. We're also in a nice like sort of synergy of events. We're working with the schools and with the Southborough Board of Health on like a grant they got from the FDA on nutrition. One of the big program I would say missing elements was we were trying to find a nutritionist, but we couldn't find one that was sort of an established library programmer. But the Board of Health is actually going to be connecting us with one. And then there's going to be a Wednesday event that's specifically unpacking a healthy lunch. It looks like we're also doing a program that's led by Dr. Alker the next day. So a lot of those events are the first week of May. You know, if you guys haven't attended a virtual or in-person cooking event, a lot of the ones coming up are going to be really fun and really yummy. So I would say hop on that.
That's great. Working with the Board of Health is fabulous.
Yeah, they're great. They're
yeah.
great, I have to say.
That's great. Okay, how about agenda item number 4, hiring new library associate, parens S.
Yeah. So as was mentioned earlier in the meeting, you know, we did set out to hire one person. We ended up, I had a recommendation to hire 2. One of them resigned. So we still got our one new staff member. So that's Jenny DiCenzo, who's joining us, and she's working a little bit more, it turns out, than we first thought. And she's okay with that. She really likes working at the library. But one of our newer library associates, Anna Goring, who came from Marlborough, was actually offered her previous position back because the library's planning on reopening soon and they've hired a new director. So while we're sorry to lose Anna, she lives in Marlborough. I think it makes sense. You know, she also is, I think, really wants to go in and become a reference librarian. That's what she's going to school for. So I think it is the right decision for her. But what that means is, you know, Anna kind of picked up some of Amy Kaufman's shift when Amy left. So this is just, we have constructed a schedule which is really maxing out our current part-time staff. And to kind of avoid burnout, I think Kim and I are going to have to, you know, Kim Ivers and I will say, we just went through a hiring process. We want a little bit of a break, I think, before we go back to it. But I think we need to start putting out some of the materials and then seeing if we can hire additional part-time staff. I think we're going to be very specific. A lot of this is coming from Kim needs help in the children's room at specific times. There are also some night shifts we would like some of the staff to cover. So really we're setting out to hire at least one, preferably two new associates that would fit into the budget.
Do you have anybody like further down on the list of your last set of candidates that you'd want to go back to?
People are always welcome to reapply, Janet, but we had 5 candidates and we offered 2 people positions. I think that I know that at least one of the candidates didn't end up pursuing it because she got another job offer. So, you know, we never know what people's situation is going to be. There was nobody I think we were comfortable making an offer to after that round of
You
interviews.
didn't have a strong third or something, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, because sometimes there are times that we'll go down the list if there were people who gave really, really strong interviews. I think for a lot of what really, just to share with you guys, what really becomes the primary conversation at the end of the interview is about the schedule. And sometimes we really like our candidates. We often interview people and have a really great interview with them. And then what we find out is, even though it's been posted in the job ad, and even though people are aware of when the library is open, people often do not or are not available to work the shifts that we need. That ends up becoming why they're not hired.
And that's
So,
nights, a lot of it,
yeah.
nights and Saturdays.
Nights. And then, you know, that was something Kim kind of mentioned specifically, is that she would like there to be additional flexibility on Saturday, because if you look at our program calendar, we're doing a lot more Saturday programming. And I mean, one thing I can say is, if you are planning trips or planning vacations in July or August, the library is closed, right? So I'm hoping that's kind of appealing, because at least the people would get those summer weekend shifts off. But you know, I have to give it to Jenny. She's working two nights a week, and then every other Saturday in addition to that. And that was a little bit more than what we talked about her initially working. So she's really stepped up. I have to also commend Kelly Wynand and Catherine Kalenda. They're 2 people who are really, I mean, they're working either 4 or 5 days a week. And that's pretty impressive for part-time staff. So, you know, they would also like to take vacations at some point. And now when we have a part-time staff member who works that amount of time, who's gone, we feel that loss. So I think at the very least, if we could have somebody who could cover, you know, when those people are gone, that's what we're going to need the added flexibility for. So I really think we have to get through town meeting before we do any posting of job ads. So it's going to be a couple weeks. I just wanted to kind of tell you guys where we're at. Sometimes I don't tell you right away when people resign. I wanted to update you on the staffing situation. So A, you're aware, and then B, just to get, if you have any concerns or issues with us looking at hiring in a couple weeks, you know, let me know now.
Brian, when you post those new ones, when you go to do it, will it be specifically for those weekend or evening times, just so you can kind of get ahead of the candidates? So you might get fewer applicants, but the ones that do apply would at least come in with the knowledge of those are the times we absolutely need.
Yeah, and we did do that in the last round and found that people some of the people, really one of the candidates we interviewed hadn't read it at all, was what we
Oh,
learned.
okay. Or maybe they're
And-
hoping that it would change.
Yes, and or that it was negotiable. Some people do enter an interview process like that. I think when we grant the interviews, we'll make it doubly clear, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then one thing we didn't add to the job ad in the previous round that we're going to kind of amend in this round is that they will specifically have shifts in the children's room. Some people were surprised that they would be working in the children's room in the interview. Some people applied because they knew that was probably what was going to be the situation, like Jenny, and she's the candidate that worked out the most. But really, it's, there's a period when kids get out of school where Kim goes from having maybe one parent and child, like, in the early afternoon, to hits like 2 or 2:30, and the room is completely filled. That's happened in several afternoons. So I will say, myself, Libby, and Mariana, and really the other two in particular, are kind of assisting Kim right now. So we have a short-term fix, right? But I want to make sure I'm not always available. Mariana's doing a lot of programming, right? And Libby is currently really trying to focus on cataloging the historic material. So, Kim is the priority, and making sure that Kim has what she needs that's something we're all committed to. But I think long-term, we're going to have to hire people. That's just where we're at.
So Ryan, here's my question. If someone comes in and they're working Saturdays and a night, after they've been here 3 or 4 years, could they expect to not have that type of schedule? Like maybe could they graduate to a more flexible schedule, or is this going to be how it always is for them?
So that we do look at the schedule seasonally, and like the Saturdays, during the summer months aren't a factor. I would say part-time people alternate, all of them. And then I
Okay.
think all of them right now are doing some form of Saturday, usually an alternating shift. I think we have 1 or 2 staff members who do once a month.
All right. Thank you. That answers the question. So if you sign up for that, that's what you're going to get.
And we're very clear on setting the expectations early. And some
Got it.
people withdraw. They say we're not interested in pursuing the job. And that's okay. I mean, again, one of the things I'll say is that I came into the structure and I didn't set the hours of the library. I'm just the one who's trying to operate it while it's open with the schedule that I was given. So, I'm looking for people who can assist with that. And we try to make, even in the evenings when it's quieter, we try to give part-time staff members dynamic projects. One of the things Anne is helping us with before she leaves is updating and revising some of the LibGuides that we developed during the pandemic, and then just kind of making sure that they're accurate, that the links work, all of that. And that was because I wanted those documents not to go away, but just to kind of be updated over time. And so, we want to reprint them and then have them available to the public, but be accurate. So that, that's like an example of one of the projects they could work on. And that's like a nice thing to do in an evening shift when you're not just getting inundated with people. But Kim also needs help in the after school time.
Yeah.
So that's something we're gonna
So here's my question for you. Do all libraries have this problem, or is there a way to arrange library hours that this will be less of a problem?
Right now, I think most of our area neighbors, and I think there's a greater issue in just libraries, maybe right now in general, with staffing shortages and with finding people who can work the right shifts. Rachel would have been great, but I think it wasn't the right time for Rachel, and it wasn't the right time with what was going on with her family to join the staff. When we're hiring again, I don't know if it will be the right time. That was something we said, you can reapply, and if this works out, we'll see. But I think we'll do our best to really try to advertise, to manage expectations for applicants, and to really, again, we'll see what we get, Marguerite. We've always been able to find really strong candidates in the past, and we always usually end up hiring somebody.
But it's a headache to have to go through the whole thing again. I guess my question are our hours, stepping back and looking at it, are the hours that the library is open the best that we can do to balance what the community needs versus the difficulty of getting staff for those tough times?
Well, I
Nights and
think we're
Saturdays.
going to ask about hours as part of the strategic plan. and about, some of the
Okay.
questions we're going to be asking about the building. I think that's a good opportunity, Marguerite, to get feedback from the public on
From
that.
what the
Because I can't
public-
answer what the public is looking for.
Right.
I would say generally what's come out of some of those discussions is a lot of people want us to be open later on Monday or Friday. That would require more staff, not
Yeah,
less.
and that might be a tough fit.
So,
And also, some
yeah.
people had said they wanted the library to be open on Sunday afternoon. And I'm listening to you and I'm saying, good luck finding anybody who wants to work on Sunday afternoons if we're having
Yeah,
trouble.
Westboro has to hire a whole separate Sunday staff in order to do that. Guys, we're having trouble filling our midweek. So, I don't see Sundays as a possibility right now in the current staffing
No,
environment.
but it keeps coming up on the community surveys. So there we go. Oh, anyway,
It's good to get feedback. It's good to know what people want. I think that is helpful.
There it is. All right. Any other questions about the hires? All right, let's move to the facade restoration project. Ryan and Janet, I guess, where are we at on this one?
So Janet was nice enough to find the notes. This one I'm going to tell you, Janet, because I know I've emailed you a little bit, but not a lot. I am going to do a pass because I have those notes now to try to put the document together, and then I will send you a revised copy because it was just that email from you that was like that holdup for me. I went through 50 million emails about this.
I know, and I
couldn't
kept
find it.
looking for a document. I thought I had attached a document, but it was just in a big email, so, yeah.
And you are on
And I'll be
vacation.
home next week and can do more.
Like,
It's hard to
Haunting you
stay
in
away from the beach to
haunting
work
you
on
on
these things.
vacation. I know it's terrible. Listen, apropos of that, if we can sort of like table that for now, but I was looking at your last year's performance eval, and your goal for ending 5/30/2023 was to coordinate and finalize a preservation restriction for the library facade. There's a typo in there. I think I wrote program and I meant preservation. But how realistic are we on actually meeting that, or should we try another? Should we just say no, can't be done, or what do you think?
I mean, I think a lot of progress has been made. I think
Yes.
Janet and I have both noted that. I think there'll be a workable draft by that time,
All
but
right.
I mean, a lot of this is predicated on working with town council
Right.
and getting legal approval. So I mean, I think and Janet and I have discussed this before. I
Right.
think it's clear that we're working on this. And I will say, it's not really just me, it's Janet as well. She's been very
Yep.
involved in this
I know,
process and very
really
helpful.
amazing. Yeah.
So, we're gonna get our part done on our end as much as we can. And I still think that that is a feasible date. I mean,
All right.
I'll have a
Okay.
little bit of time after town meeting to devote to this. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Janet. If there's anything else you want to say regarding this, please go ahead.
Well, I would consider the goal met if everything that Ryan could do and contribute is
Mhm.
completed by then.
Okay.
The nitpicking by attorneys or back and forth with a different group who wants something else included. I mean, it's part of the job, but that wouldn't be something under his control.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
It's
think he's
circumstances
done
beyond his control.
90% of what he could do already. So I think
All right.
we're there on the goal.
Okay, good. So we don't have to
And,
feel.
and I'm very glad we don't get assessed on our goals.
Oh gosh, don't even think that. If we have to start assessing ourselves, it would be
Yeah.
beyond. Anyway, okay, so this is like moving agenda item 5, library facade restoration project, moving right along. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How about the next agenda item, Mass Public Library Construction Program? That's a big one.
Amy Yazdani is joining us now. So
Oh, hi, Amy.
I'm just promoting her to a panelist.
Good.
So a lot of I think what really is starting to occur, and this kind of goes into, I think Janet and I's report about the Community Center Exploration Committee is the next agenda item. So I'm kind of, bearing the lead a little bit, but I have communicated now to the town administrator team, to the advisory committee, to the select board, and to the capital I'm trying, it's like Capital Improvement Committee. It's whatever the Capital Committee is called now. They have a new name. So they are aware that the library is going to pursue the letter of intent, right? That we're going to file the letter of intent now. I have, just as part of my work, I'll wait till the community center thing, I guess, to talk about that. But I met with Mark and Vanessa. They would really like, I think, me and possibly some of you, a quorum of you, if it works out, to go to a future select board meeting, just to update them on our process. Part of my presentation, you'll see too, which again, I'm sorry, is a future agenda item, but that just kind of talks about how we're going to be soliciting community input. And there is a little bit of like a future in there because it talks about doing library open forums, which are going to be some evening events and maybe some weekend events where like I literally just host people who come and we kind of do some exercises where I get some feedback. You know, a lot of those sessions will be about an hour. If you guys want to, you know, come co-host with me or participate, that is going to be something you did. For people who participated in previous strategic planning sessions, it's going to be very similar, is what I can say. So like one of the exercises is called Stop, Start, Continue. This was something I got from Russ Milholland. So you kind of start saying, what should the library stop doing? What should the library start doing? And then what should the library continue doing? You know, so that's kind of, and that sounds very simple, but that can generate a lot of discussion, it turns out. And we've learned that from the strategic planning sessions.
Yeah. Those are very useful. Yeah.
I am going to start constructing a survey. That's something I'm going to actively be asking for your feedback on. A lot of the questions will be space and building focused. So, you know, just start thinking about that as I start putting together questions, and then I'm going to be open to that. I can tell you, you know, many people in this group have been helpful with the surveys in the past, but, you know, I think you know, I've worked a lot with Kim on some of the metric information. I will say Kim has been very helpful in the past on helping me revise some of the questions. So if you're open to that, Kim, you're kind of one of the first people I thought of as I'm putting together the questions. And then again, we'll bring it to the rest of the group so that we can get feedback. And then if you guys have revisions as well.
Good. So forums and surveys on the near horizon. Stay tuned,
Yeah.
basically. Yep. Good. Questions? All right. The Community Center Exploration Committee update. Are those two agenda items with the public library grant? Are those basically covered now, Ryan, or do you want to separately deal with the community?
No, I still have to put the letter of intent together. I believe Mark will be okay with being the designated municipal official.
Yeah.
That's really what the MBLC is recommending, is that your top official in your town does it. So again, I think his concern was, you know, he kind of, you know, works as an agent of the select board a lot. We will probably need the select board chair's signature on the letter of intent as well. So it'll probably be Kathy Cook. So, you know, again, everybody's aware now of I think all of the primary players, but not everybody who doesn't follow our meetings and follows town government knows that we're going to be putting in this letter of intent. So
Right.
A lot of this now becomes a public communication piece. I think when we go to the select board, people who watch those meetings are going to be aware of what the library's kind of intentions in the next year are. And then hopefully those are people who will participate in the public process if they feel strongly.
The MBLC programs on library expansion and building were fantastic. I guess everybody watched those or can watch them now on
Yeah,
YouTube.
I attended the
They're
Amplifying
fabulous.
training. I had already kind of done one because that's how we're putting in our LSTA grant expenditures. Really the next step, just so you guys know, and then I will shut up so you can talk, but is doing the letter of intent. So that is kind of the next step in this process, and I will be putting that together. And then I think we meet one more time before it has to be filed. But if it is finalized prior to that, I mean, that's going to be my goal, I think, in the next several weeks is making sure that we have exactly what needs to be in there and then getting it filed.
Good.
Do
Questions?
you do that by your onesies, Ryan, or do you get help from town council?
The letter of intent isn't a legal document. It really is just the intention to put
Okay.
Yeah, it's
to
like a
file the grant.
placeholder, basically.
If,
Yeah.
if there's a recommendation from the town administrator to have it reviewed, we will look at that. But again, I think because it's not a legal document, that won't be necessary. But we do need multiple signatures. I think Marguerite needs to sign as well. That's what I learned. So you guys are aware, but since you guys already took a vote, that should be okay, I think, with the rest of you. But it's good to mention so that you guys are aware Marguerite as chair would sign.
Good, good, good. I can't say enough nice things about the MBLC or MBLPLC. What was the
MCLCP, the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program.
Yes, was fabulous, was really helpful. And it's all on their website, which is very happy. Okay, the next agenda item is the pre-town meeting presentation handout.
So the last time we decided for the handout, we were going to, and Kim, I don't think you were here, but I really love the document you and Mariana put together for
Yes.
the everything you need to know about the library, the trifold. So what my pitch was to the board was to just simply create more copies of that trifold and make it available at town meeting. I think it is an excellent snapshot of where the library is now. And I think for people maybe who aren't library users, that document would be very helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good use of work that's already done and to not have to create anything new. And, you know, Mariana did a lot of work because this kind of stemmed from a project she had done for her program. So I think it was a really good use of, you know, her work. And all I did was help her, you know, with some of the copy and worked with her to fine tune it a bit in Canva. So it also, we had the benefit of moving this into Canva, which is I guess a product that you have a subscription for versus the program I was doing the previous ones in, which I used to have a personal subscription for, but no longer have. So at least it's in a spot where, you know, going forward for making changes, it's in a program that the library has access to, which is important.
Thank you for your work on that, Kim. It looks great.
Thanks. Mariana did all the heavy lifting on that. So
Well,
kudos
between
to
the
her.
two of you, Mariana and Kim, it's a really nice thing. How do you spell Canva?
CANVA. Yeah. Sorry, Kim.
No, go ahead.
CANVA?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a new
Like canvas without the S.
without the S. All right, good. Okay. So thank you on that. And sounds like we're all set for town meeting. Ryan, you're going to give a short presentation at the pre-town meeting also. What are they really cut the time?
No, that already happened. It was on the 7th. So I have sent you guys, I'm sorry it was late, but I sent you about a half an hour ago, the
Mhm.
presentation. I'm
Oh, got it.
happy if
Okay.
I know we're running kind of late now, but if you guys want me to run through the presentation, I'm happy to do that. There are 7 slides. So I worked with Kim, and I actually got some feedback from Kim Ivers and Leah on some visuals to include. So the first slide is really just my intro slide with the logo. And then the last slide is the Peggy Tuttle Award, right? Which is usually how I end the presentation. So really there's 5 slides in the middle with just a couple programming pictures that I kind of selected
Okay. So
that I thought would be
we'll-
good.
we'll
You know, I used to take a lot more pictures, and we used to, you know, some of our events, we used to have like hundreds and hundreds of people. So it was harder to kind of nitpick, I would say, this time. So I caught a couple of things I think that were kind of eye-catching. There's a picture of like the children's room looking pretty crowded during one of the story times that I caught a snap of.
That's my other question for it. In other words, at the actual town meeting, you will not be doing any kind of a presentation?
Yeah, okay. So I did reach out to the moderator, so our town moderator, Paul Semino. So it is anticipated that this town meeting is going to run kind of long. I think there's about 40 articles. There's a fair amount of citizen petition articles that have been put in at the end. So again, they're going to try to do the consent agenda to go through a lot of it. And then when it gets to the financial articles, that's when discussion, I think, is going to start happening. What he is now, there's not going to be Article 1 presentations anymore. I think the writing was on the wall for a while. I think they took up a lot at the beginning, and I think people were concerned about it making town meeting longer. So what he has asked is if we can kind of do the presentation right before the meeting begins. He recognizes that, you know, this is one of my only opportunities to do a mass presentation to the public and to reach a large amount of people who maybe don't go to the library.
So this is
Not everybody
this
at
is
town meeting does.
pre-quorum. In other words, while the hall is filling up.
Yeah. So
All right.
at about 12:45,
Mhm.
I think the library is going to be the first group that's called. And then I don't know. I know in previous iterations, the Municipal Technology Committee and the Economic Development Committee have
Oh
had
no,
short
everybody at Open
presentations.
Space did one. Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's a presentation that's with an article, they're also being given very limited time
Yeah.
to do anything. So it's the same with us. He's asked me to shorten and tighten up the presentation. So if you recall, I always tried to do 10 slides. I was always around that. Sometimes I was 11 or 12. Sometimes I was like, 9 or 10. But this is really an effort to tighten it up, to
Yeah.
hit some of the points I think that aren't present in the handout. So it gives some
Okay.
statistic information, that's been kind of updated. It goes over thanking our grant partners, which I think is a big piece that
yeah.
we like to highlight, to thank those people for providing funding for any new events or new initiatives. And then just, some of the slides are more kind of fluff, I would say, like it's an announcement about a new programming initiative. That is kind of removed from this version.
Are
You'll
we
see it's-
talking at all about the letter of intent?
So I talk about getting input from members of the public and that
Mhm.
we're going to be running a new strategic plan.
Oh,
But no, because at the last
Right.
meeting, we determined I shouldn't mention the construction program at this point.
yeah, I think there's a lot of other stuff in there. The meeting on Saturday goes from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 2 hours for supper, and then 7 to 11. And I'm thinking there'll probably be a bazillion people showing up to vote on the track and fields at Algonquin, because that's a lot of money. And a lot of those people will probably come, and I'm thinking the second half will probably be thinner, but I may be wrong. Anyway, it's kind of a lot of hours of town meeting on one day. So I understand why they're trying to cut the presentation, but the presentations are very useful, but there it is.
Ryan, could you send us the slides?
Yeah, so I apologize, Janet. It went out at like 10:30
Okay.
this morning. So it is I know many of you probably did not check your email a half an hour before. And I know that a couple people, Jane, I hear you. I know I don't like sending things out right before the meeting, but what I had done was I had picked out the visuals yesterday afternoon, like going through all the pictures and then writing the narrative elements that went with the pictures took me a little bit longer because I like to kind of revise and edit a little bit. And that is still kind of in draft form. So you can feel free to go through the narrative elements. it is short. I don't know. Do you guys want me to run through the presentation now? Would that be
Well,
helpful?
the thing is this, we're halfway through the
Okay.
agenda and we have three
Yeah.
really major things to discuss. Candidates night, your evaluation, and staff appreciation week. So what do you think? Do we have time? What's the sense of the group?
I don't think it personally, if you want my opinion, I don't think this is necessary. I think you guys can review the slides. And then if you have individual feedback, would it be okay as a course of action to just send that to me? And I'm happy to revise. The presentation is not in its final form. It is in its very earliest draft, but it's complete. So that is why it was so late. And I apologize for sending that to you. It was really a struggle to try to get you something by this morning. So
Well, what if we just, Janet, is it okay with you if we just read it and send Ryan feedback on it? Does
Yeah.
that work for you?
Perfect. Perfect.
All right, let's do that. Because I'm kind of worrying about, we have to talk about candidates night for the spring election. Betsy Rosenblum is not able to do it or be involved with it this year. So it's falling back on us. There's also the issue of civility and not civility. So we're wondering, Ryan and I had discussed possibly having the candidates read sort of like, who am I and why am I running and what do I plan to do, statements, to skip a Q&A and just basically have it all online this year.
Yeah, I mean,
That makes sense.
it's good Marguerite kind of went over the overview. I mean, I did reach out to Marguerite and kind of talk this out with her a little bit. And again, I want to talk with the rest of you about it too. I recognize that this is one of the largest events that the library puts on annually. And I recognize the value that it provides the community to inform them, to inform the electorate about people who are running for office. That said, this has historically been a very stressful event for me every year. This
it's
is something,
huge, yeah.
unfortunately, I don't always look forward to. And this is something where last year, when we included the Northborough school candidate, there were people who I can only describe as hecklers who showed up and who
Yeah.
were very rude
Yeah.
and very unkind to this woman who was running for office. And I
Who won
understand
by a landslide.
Yay!
right? I mean, maybe it ultimately helped her, but I did speak with her after her comments that night, and she was understandably, and I think justifiably upset. And Betsy was our MC. Betsy did her best, and I think actively engaged those individuals who were trying to disrupt the event, but it did disrupt the event. And I think the potential of that is unfortunately always there. We did run during COVID a virtual session, which I know that was the year that David and Kim were running for election, and so they participated as candidates.
Right.
That I thought was very effective. There was very little issues with, I think, nastiness. Again, I don't know what other word to use.
No, it was nasty last time. It was very
There were
I mean,
at
they
a point.
came, but those men came with the intention of making a big fuss, and it didn't even have to do with our town.
exactly.
I
So
know.
I think that's one of those things where you call the police.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
had
they were
police
just
call at other
heckling.
meetings.
Yeah, it was awful.
We should have just completely shut them down right away. I finally turned around to the guy behind me and said, "You're not saying anything that reflects well on you. You're better off being quiet." And he finally shut up, but the other two guys kept going. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Papers have been pulled by a number of people for the selectmen. The election is May 9th. The town election is May 9th. So that gives us a couple of months to sort this out. But
And this discussion can continue into next month.
yeah,
Janet, that incident was not isolated. There is almost an issue every year we've done this with
This is the
somebody.
worst I've ever seen, but
Yeah,
and
that
it
was
was
definitely,
pretty
I think,
bad, yeah.
that was definitely because they just didn't stop, I think, while they were there. And then they did. I mean, I almost did call the police, to be
well,
honest.
you know what? Maybe
because
we should have police presence.
If we do it in person, I'm thinking we should do it by
maybe
Zoom.
also, should we do it? As a
I think
question
the
I wanted to
online,
ask.
two things, the recent court ruling, but also
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you took the legal issues at library course. I took both of them, and this can create quite a problem for future people. We will have established precedent, and it can cause a problem later for other groups that may not represent the library, but we will be legally required to allow in. So I don't know why it isn't done at the townhouse, where political discussion occurs. I think that would make more sense to me, but online, I think the recordings would just make it easier and cause less stress on the staff and keep us under,
So
keep
I
us
think
out of trouble.
I agree. I think it's very good for the town to see who the candidates are, because a lot of times they have no idea. And I think if you can do it on Zoom, we won't have the hostility issue, and I'm afraid of it, frankly. I mean, I
What
don't
was
see
it?
it.
I wasn't there. What was the issue?
These
They were
guys were
saying that
heckling.
Joan Frank was not a viable candidate and that she was not representing Northborough well. And there were three men who kept talking about it on and on and on,
They were bullying
interrupting her,
basically.
you know. Maybe we
I
should
think
talk
that-
to
I
the
think-
town about doing something differently. Maybe we
Go to
need
the
a big
town.
room. We have one, but so does the senior center.
Mhm.
And maybe it could be something where we helped, maybe there should be a bipartisan committee that sets this thing up and we can help with our advice, but
I have spoken also with
To
the
the town
assistant
clerk.
town administrator about this, and one of her suggestions was to reach out to the League of Women Voters and see, because they used to, I guess, have an active group in
there hasn't been one for
Southborough.
years and years.
Yeah, so I have never met anybody from that group. I'm not surprised to hear that. You know, again, sometimes the library just at the end of the day isn't big enough for this event, right?
Yeah.
It does bring in a lot of people, which I think is a positive, but sometimes space very quickly becomes an issue. There's an added element, just to let you guys know, in that now Southborough Access Media has one staff member, and they have limitations on what they can and cannot film. So one of the kind of ideas about moving this online, like it was a couple years ago, is that was a video a lot of people watched, because I think people wanted to know, they wanted to see the candidate statements. So, you know, this would be a way to reach a wide audience in a way that we might not be able to if we have an in-person event, because there is not a guarantee Access Media can film it. That I think is a big one for us.
Well, I am not in favor of an in-person event at this point. There's enough interpersonal friction to make it almost guaranteed that it's going to turn into an ungood thing. So
Well, I'm not saying too it has to be like this every year. I'm saying that maybe this is what we do this
we just pretend
particular
it's like the
year.
beginning of COVID, and everyone can do their mission statement like Kim and David did. Who you are, why you're running, what you plan to do, and you know, take your 5 minutes and then put it up on the town website or YouTube or our website, and people can go and see who the candidates are. Because you're right. I mean, a lot of people have no idea who they're voting for because they don't participate, and this would solve
It's
that
just-
problem.
I think part of this too is that there's a candidate who may be running who has been very disruptive in municipal buildings and has been disruptive at the library. And I think that is also unfortunately a factor in
Yeah,
this
I
year's
think
event.
you're right. I think you're right.
I don't think it's an alarmist effort to simply ask your friend, the police chief, to have an officer there present. I think
If we do it on,
may
if
have
we
to-
do it
there
on
may be a-
Zoom,
There
we
may be a
won't have,
cost
we
for
won't have a
that.
physical place. We'll
Yeah.
just be, it'll just be a Zoom meeting. It won't have a place.
If we do it in person, David and Janet too, and we have a police officer there, because I think both of you brought up that issue. I believe that we may have to pay for that.
I would just say do it as
They may have to
Zoom.
pay an officer to,
Yeah. So this, all of Candidates Night didn't used to exist. And it started when I'd been on the board like a couple of years. So it was like, I don't know what, 10 or 11 years ago. But I think it was Jane Smith and a couple of other people said it would be really nice if we could get everybody together in the library and the candidates could talk about their positions. So it is not an ancient institution. It's fairly new. But it is very handy in terms of people not knowing who's running. So I'm thinking, can we have a Zoom meeting, bring all the candidates in, have them read for 5 minutes or talk for 5 minutes. The Zoom meeting is Candidates Night. They're not together physically. It's all run, you know, it's all pre-recorded as a Zoom. The library can sponsor it. Does that work for people? And that way we don't have to worry about anybody going on long or bullying or any of it.
If it's considered a meeting, I think we have to have public comment, which circles right back to where we were.
Well, is
It's
it a
a
meeting?
it's
It's not
it's
done
a-
as a meeting. It wasn't done as a meeting as Candidates Night, was it? I don't think it
no,
was.
it's a program.
I
It's
don't
a
know.
program, so we don't need to worry about that.
I knew I was gonna disappoint some people as
No.
part of this discussion. It's just,
I think it's such a community service to provide it. And, you know, if somebody goes off the rails, that's good information for people too.
I thought you agree.
You know, I'm sorry, but it is. It's, you know, it's, I mean.
I
Yes.
don't
for
think
that
it's the
person-
candidates we're worried about, though,
Oh,
Uh,
well, you could be.
as much as, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we can accomplish the exact same thing with the recording, putting it up like Ryan's suggesting. I don't think we need the risk of the public comment as well as,
It's
like
a
I said.
safer choice, but I don't think it's as effective for what you're trying to do, which is get people to see what the candidates are like.
well,
So
so maybe we could just do it like
Maybe it's
Zoom
not our
this
job.
one time and then go back to the other later. What do you think?
well, we
I
could
mean,
talk
the other
to the
issue,
candidate.
to be,
It's still going to
be,
require somebody contacting all the candidates, lining up the time, doing
can do all that.
RSVPs.
if you
Alright.
guys want me to, I will do it. That's the other thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
So like, let's start right there. We want to do an in-person event. I will do it for you guys because I serve at the pleasure of the Library Board of Trustees. I will do what you guys like want, what you want to happen. I will make it happen. But I will say another factor I just want to bring up with last year's event was that we had a candidate who was sick and then wanted to come to the library when they were sick.
Yeah.
And that was a big, like, there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that was going on there
Mhm,
where we
yeah.
were like, you cannot do that in this type of environment. And to be honest, like, it's not something we like to think about, but we do not want this to be like an event where people come to, and
Yeah.
then there's the potential that they would get sick. And I understand we're reopened, we have to operate programs under that type of sphere, but it seemed like this candidate was very upset that they couldn't attend the event. And if it had been virtual, they would have been able to. So that's just something I also wanted to highlight.
Well, do we need to vote on this or do we want to talk about it some more? Do we want to think about it and talk about it at our next meeting? I personally am not in favor of meeting in person this year. But that's just me, so I don't know how everybody else feels.
I agree with you, Marguerite.
So another year when we're not worried about the candidates, we would do it again?
Yes, I think we should, I think it's a good
Kind of an
tradition. but I
editorial
just-
comment.
No, I
No,
just
I
think like,
You should give, I think, first of all, I'm still not sure, as Ryan mentioned, why, or Marguerite, why this falls on the library trustee or the
Mhm.
library itself. I think it should be more of a town type of thing. I don't think it should be whether we're concerned with candidates. I think either we offer recording or just bat it back to the town and say, really, this is something that they should do so that we are not confusing what is, public and semi-public and what can be said where and things like that, which are becoming much into the forefront. And I think it would be just make more sense for the town to run this.
What does everybody else think? Jane, David?
I think we
Well-
also have to remember that My Southborough is an outlet for people as well, because they've always solicited from candidates, to submit their picture and a statement. So it seems like that will always be an option. I was at the candidates night last year and it it was super uncomfortable. And at the same time, it also highlights our space issues. When we have an event like that is being recorded and could potentially be contentious. We also have to keep the stacks open for patrons who want to use the library for library purposes. And they might feel uncomfortable going in to do that because they don't want to be, picked up on a public recording while they're trying to, look for their books. So, it's only one night out of a year, but when we think about events like that, especially ones that are recorded, it just, to me, highlights our space issues and, our decisions we need to make to say, are these programs that the library should be responsible for, or should we be prioritizing, other things like accessibility to the patrons? So I don't know. I guess I'm torn. I'm not against the online of it, but at the same time, is this something that we should be spending our resources on, or is this something that you know, residents should just get used to going on My Southborough and reading the statements, which, you know, is usually done in years past. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's up to us to put out a poll to see what residents want or how they want to gain information about political candidates, because I think that gets us into a dicey area. But I think maybe if we can have discussions with, you know, the townhouse or elsewhere to say, like, you know, what do we think is appropriate and where should this responsibility live?
That's a good question. That's a good way to look at it. It began before there was a lot of electronic things like Zoom and Zoom recording of anything.
True.
So it was a different universe. Yeah.
Well said, Kim. Well said.
I'll just say quickly, I'm in the minority here, but I think there's a lot to be gained from an in-person meeting, as we have discussed, for instance, with our own trustees meetings. But I would take note of the fact that I'm repeating myself, but having an officer there is not a bad idea. And I'm also mindful of the fact, as we all are, that there's one particular individual who seems to be spoiling for a fight with almost everybody. So, you know, this may, if this is a year to not do it in person, I certainly I respect the majority notion here that we should do it on Zoom.
Well, we've got a while to think about it.
You don't have to make any final decisions today. You know, we can reevaluate this. We'll still have time, a short amount of time in April to put something together. And we don't know, people have pulled papers, but not everybody has returned, right? They have another week to do that. We don't know how many contested elections there are going to be. Given the history of this, there may be very few contested elections. It doesn't look like there's going to be that many to begin with now. Like maybe school committee, maybe select board, but we're not entirely positive if even that is going to be a race that materializes. You know, I think let's add this as an agenda item for next meeting. Does that sound acceptable to everybody?
I think
And
that
then we
sounds good to
can,
me, yeah.
okay.
All right, so and I guess the other thing is if people on the if people on the board of trustees want to communicate with Ryan without doing, you know, open meeting law violation, I think it'd be good to sort of use you as a clearinghouse for this before the next meeting, Ryan, too, if people want to you know, because I'm of like six minds about this. I think it's important that people see who's running, and you know, ask me tomorrow. I'll still think that, but I'm leery of meeting in person. But maybe I wouldn't feel that way later. I don't know.
It's like Janet said, and I think David echoed this, is that there's tremendous value in doing it in person. And I know this is an event a lot of people do look forward to every year. You know, sometimes this is a night where I see somebody at the library who I don't see all year.
Yeah.
It's actually a great opportunity for us to interface with elected officials or to meet people who are new to town government, who might be people that we're going to have to interact with, you know, at a future advisory meeting, at a future select board meeting. I want you all aware of the challenges that came out of, like, I was very concerned last year, and I think those concerns haven't gone away. So I think it's just important to go into this year with eyes wide open, if that makes sense, and to see if doing an online event has potentially more value than the in-person one. Maybe the answer to that is no. You know, I don't know. I think it's something we all need to think about, and we need time to digest.
What are the optics of the police having to remove somebody from candidates night?
I'd have to reach out to the police to even see if that's an option.
Well,
So
not
that'll be
even,
something
I
we'll
mean,
follow up with.
they will have to, it'll have to go really far for them to be able to remove anybody at that point. It's not going to be a very minor thing, I'm sure.
But they were also
Wouldn't you have
sometimes
to-
just the
wouldn't you have
police,
to pay- wouldn't you have
sometimes
to
the
pay
police
them?
presence. I'm sorry, Jane. Yeah.
I said, wouldn't you have to, if you plan ahead to have a policeman there, wouldn't we have to pay them?
I'd have to ask that question, Jane. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we have explored that in previous candidates nights. And that was what we got back. We do have a new police chief. I have met with him. I would say if there's a way to, it might be that the officer can stop by the event. I think that did happen one time, just to make sure everything was going okay. But if we have somebody positioned there for like hours, I think there might be a cost for that. Should be
It just
one.
seems so odd
And
to me
why,
that
why
here,
would
go ahead,
why would
Jane.
the library have to be big? I think what Amy said earlier, why is this, I mean, maybe you like hosting it, you said you like having patrons you don't see very often, but why is this event on the library? Why couldn't it be more of a town event? I'm leaning to that. I mean, as long as I've been on the board, which is 6 years, the library's always hosted it, and it's nice, but it's a huge expense and effort for the staff and Ryan. Why is it at the library?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good
I think it
question.
has to be a private group. Before the library took it on, they used to have it in people's living rooms, but they could only invite so many people. So I
Yeah.
think this was a public service.
Well, I think
That is-
what you said, the senior center has a big room.
Right.
But the other thing is that when Betsy did it, she spent a lot of time. There were name tags, there was a timekeeper, there was somebody to do the emceeing, there were the
Mhm.
invitations, there was finding a night when everybody could make it. She worked on
Right.
it a lot. And
Yeah.
she spent a lot of her own money, which she got reimbursed for, doing both the letters and the emails that went out to connect with people and to make sure that they could make it. So
Okay,
there was, it's not a
great, but-
like, hi, come on over. It's very difficult to find a date and time that the people can
Yep.
make it.
And one
Marguerite,
thing
No,
that
I
happens every
I
year.
understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, why does the venue have to be the library?
Yeah, I agree. I
I
don't
think it
know.
doesn't have to be. And Marguerite, you bring up a good point. Like, in the past, we've had Betsy, and I've been to it where there have been other moderators, but in the absence of us actually having Betsy as a moderator, we don't have one. And last year kind of proved that we absolutely need an experienced moderator in order to control the crowd. So we don't have that in Betsy. And I don't think any of us at this point are willing to stand up to be moderator for this type of event. So to me, I think that's one of the biggest reason it puts this at risk for us to even want to host. And then just randomly, would it be a possibility for this event to be to take place in the conference room in the public safety building?
That was pitched as an alternate venue. It has a capacity limit, and given the
Is it less
attendance,
than the library though?
yes, it is
Okay.
for the main floor. Yes.
I mean, I think this, like you said, Kim, that with Betsy not able to do it, this is our perfect kind of, we've done it, thank you. Now it's time for somebody else to take it on. What about the Rotary? Or I just think it should come from the townhouse personally, but
I think it has to, I think legally you've got to have a private group.
well, we're not a private group technically. We're elected
town.
officials.
Yeah,
And
not
so-
not part of the elected official kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
it
you
doesn't,
guys,
we do.
There
But
are
we are
trustees
but
every
we are
year
elected
that
officials.
are running for office.
That's why we're
Right,
not
it seems
private.
like-
So,
Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be a conflict of interest? We are elected officials.
I think so too, Jane. I think it's kind of a sticky thing that we've avoided, but we shouldn't keep doing.
I don't think the elected trustees are ever directly involved with the event, right? A lot of it goes to me. I think at the, and I apply, there's a grant I get from Wegmans every year where they give us free money to do it. So like we found opportunities and vehicles to pay for, because we
All
get
right,
it
there's the
catered.
food
But
part.
The
Yeah.
Yeah,
food part
but
is nice, but why should we have Ryan working on all this as opposed to other things that are more important to the library specifically?
Yeah, I
Agree.
agree.
And I will say every year, one of the most stressful pieces of this is that we set a date and we set a time. And then it was without fail. It has happened every year of this
Somebody
event.
can't
Where a
make it.
candidate gets in
And we
touch with
can't make
me.
it.
I am traveling I cannot make this day. Can you please change the day? And then we have to change the day. And then that creates all these issues with the candidates who have already
Well,
confirmed.
now we
And
have
that
the,
is a nightmare.
no, now we have, I mean, people are still getting COVID. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can plan all you want, but if someone comes down with it the
Yep.
day before, they're not gonna come.
They're not going to come. You're right. Also, I'm listening to the parameters we're talking about. A policeman in case there's verbal violence or some kind of other acting out. A moderator who can handle a tough crowd. I mean, this is starting to sound like a wrestling match. It's sort of a, I don't know. It's not what the library is supposed to be doing.
Again, I can see both sides. It would be weird not to do anything after 9 years of doing it, right? So I can see both sides. Again, I think we should revisit this next month, if that's okay with everybody.
All right, let's do that. Time to sleep on it. How's that? All right. The library director evaluation.
That's a
I
great,
believe-
great thing to follow that.
Yeah, okay, library director, we think you're great. I think the due date is May 30th, am I right?
So we have to submit an evaluation, like I have to do all the employee evaluations and you
Mhm.
have to do mine.
Yeah,
It has to be in prior to July 1st.
right. So the drop dead is May 30th, basically, right?
Well, you probably have to do an evaluation either in May or June.
Mhm.
I can try to get specific timeframes from Vanessa.
Okay, well, we'll aim for earlier. What I'd like to do, if everybody is okay with this, I would like to email you the blank personnel form that we used last year, and I would like to email you Ryan's evaluation for last year so that you could be thinking about it. How's that?
Good.
Okay, sounds good.
That should make it quick and easy, well, relatively. And the way we did it last time was everyone filled out the eval, and then they all came to me, and then I collated and included every comment, and I averaged the numbers. And then we discussed what the goals were and the last year's goals were at a meeting. So will that work out? I think that'd be probably the most efficient way to do it again, if that's okay with everybody.
Mhm, I
All
think
right.
so.
All
Good.
right. Done.
As with previous years,
Mhm.
again, I hate being part of the discussion about my own evaluations, I'm sorry. But as with previous years, because I think this will be helpful for many of you, I will provide a self-evaluation. As many of you know who have read it, I think all of you have been through a library director evaluation before, right? So I put a lot of time and a lot of thought into the self-evaluation. It tends to be kind of a long document, but I do think it is helpful for maybe, you don't always see me interfacing with the staff. You don't always see me interfacing with the public. And also there are things sometimes that we don't cover in the meeting, which are sort of challenges or successes that I like to highlight as part
Good.
of that.
All
So I will have that to you, hopefully in the next month, so that you can use that as part of your evaluative
Right,
process.
that's good. All right. So there'll be 3 documents in everybody's email, yours and the blank and last year's. Good. Okay. Moving right along, staff appreciation. Library week is April 23 to 29.
No, 17, I believe, right, Brian?
Is it? Is it?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
17th through the 21st.
17 to
Yeah,
21.
that sounds
Good.
right.
In
It's
your
the-
I
it's
here.
just
the
sent an
vacation.
email with the assignment, so we're good.
Okay.
Everybody agreed to keep what they were doing. I spoke with Ryan for the best days and I've sent them to you. If you have any questions or problems, give me a call.
Good.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the difference this year, just so everybody's aware, there will not be a Monday event because Monday is a holiday. So this is also, I think, is it following the gardeners,
Yes, it is.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a good kind of reminder because Books in Bloom is happening the weekend prior.
Mhm.
Then Monday is
Patriots Day.
Patriots Day.
Yes.
Yep. And then, so what we're gonna do is kind of the meal events Tuesday through Thursday, and then do the snacks at the end. So then a lot of the part-time staff and the people who kind of alternate Friday, Saturday shifts will be able to partake in those.
Oh, great.
Sort of equal measure. So.
Good. Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Amy. That's
Amy
fun.
has been great, as she was last year, about organizing this and being proactive. So just, I mean, first of all of you deserve a lot of accolades for how great it was. And I know it's going to be great again this year. And as a staff member, I appreciate you. I know a lot of our newer staff members have heard the legend of this from last year. They're very, very excited about this, and a lot of our staff are excited about it coming back. So just, you have a lot of happy library staff members, and it hasn't even occurred yet. So.
That's great. And Jane, please thank the gardeners for Books in Bloom. It's always wonderful. They put a
Oh, yeah.
lot of work
Well, I
into
hope you all can come. It's Thursday night. And then it'll be up until Saturday. Thursday night
Fabulous.
reception.
Thursday, the
Thursday.
20th,
No, it'd be the
no.
week before.
The week
week
before.
before. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for chipping in. I think it makes the staff so happy to be appreciated, and they
It's
should be.
really fun to do it.
Couldn't do it without
Except
y'all.
it's the same, right? We're doing breakfast again, Janet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
That was good.
Okay. Public comment. We have no public with us today.
No, nobody's on the attendees. The Books in Bloom reception, Janet, is the evening of April 13th. So it's
Okay.
Thursday. The open hours will be starting at 5 because the gardeners are going to set up most of the day. And then, they're going to come in as they can. And then the reception really will go for a long time. It's going to go from 5 to 8. So there'll be kind of drop-in hours. But if people can't make it Thursday, Friday and Saturday while the library's open are going to be exhibit hours. Just to let you guys know, because it's going to be prior to the next trustees meeting, I think, or on it maybe. But the public seating for the Books in Bloom exhibit will be disrupted, as it is anytime we do the event. So a lot of the wooden chairs are going to be relocated to the book sale storage area. There will be some limited seating after the reception in the front, but we will be posting notices to let the public know that during Books in Bloom, there's limited public seating, and that it'll resume once the event exhibit is taken down.
Good. Well, it sounds wonderful. All right. So we're good. We have no public comment. Any other trustees want to say anything at this point about anything that's on your mind? Okay. I think we're good then. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Date for next meeting?
Oh,
Yeah.
date for next meeting. Yes. Okay, so we're running
That's a good comment, Janet, because
second.
I was wondering myself.
Oh, I know. How about the 14th of April?
Good for me.
Is that school vacation week?
Yeah.
That's the week before.
The week
Okay.
after is, so that we would miss, that would work.
The Books in Bloom exhibit will be going on then, and the staff appreciation is the following week, just to give you guys a time frame.
Okay, so
Is anybody going away for school vacation week? That will be gone on the 14th.
No.
Not on the
So vacation's the week after.
I know some people get a early start.
14th. 14th works for everybody then?
Mhm.
Good.
Yep.
And I apologize for being late. Something came up I couldn't miss, so.
Oh, no, no
Amy,
problem.
it's okay. It's okay.
We
So,
managed. We did okay.
we missed
Um,
you. We missed you, but we.
That's good. Do I have a
We
motion to
soldiered
adjourn?
on, right?
Motion to
Yeah.
adjourn.
You soldiered on. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Was that Janet?
Janet,
Yes.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and then Amy has seconded. All right, Landry, aye. Trustee Eckberg,
All right.
Davis, Trustee Reagan,
Aye.
Maney,
Aye.
Yazdani.
Aye.
Thank you all for all your work, and we got a lot done, and I'll see you in a month or before. Okay,
Thanks, Marguerite.
Okay,
Bye.
great. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, did Marguerite already sign off? Okay. I might have to